So if everyone can remember, last class we discussed some of the main themes found in America's founding documents like the Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence. We talked about things like freedom, equality, justice, and democracy. So today we're going to go a little further into freedom and kind of analyze that. Now, the basic freedoms we have are outlined in the First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. So before we start, I want to make sure everyone's on the same page and make sure we know what these freedoms are. So if you can volunteer, and we can list them right up on the board. Anybody? Freedom of speech. All right.
Assembly.
All right, two more.
Religion.
All right. Last one has to do with newspapers, magazines, press. Okay. So today we're going to evaluate each one of these freedoms and kind of evaluate to the extent in which they're still practiced today in America. What we're going to find out is that not all speech is completely protected by the First Amendment. Not necessarily all assembly, religion, or press is either. But to start off, we're going to watch a video on a KK rally in Georgia. And while we're watching this, I want you to keep in mind that all this is protected under the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly clause, and everything they're doing here is completely legal. Okay. And while you're watching, kind of think of some ideas of why such outrageous actions and ideas and kind of the hate they're spreading is still protected under the First Amendment. Okay.
We don't know what to expect. We're prepared for the worst, hoping for the best.
Here, I'm kind of disappointed, that here we are in 2010, and things of this nature are still going on.
Bradley County ain't never seen nothing like this. Basically, when you cross the Bradley County line, it's like going back in time. You know what I mean? It's always been good old boys over here, pretty much.
You boys ought to get a red flag. It ain't getting long. Everybody too chicken to do it, though.
1, 2, look at them. Please don't stop. Stop them. Good Lord, it's like control that.
They've come out for the show, and I hope the show don't go bad. I hope everything works out great. I really do. The city of Nana's come a long ways. This is going to leave a bad scar on the city of Nana. It really will. Yeah.
Keep on the talking, marching us to freedom land.
Come here today to peacefully protest against the immigration policies that our current administration seems to be failing to address. Something about Mexicans. Mexicans don't have a patriotic sense to live in America the way our Anglo-Saxons. We speak English.
I don't hate you, honey. I don't hate like that you hate.
Thank you, my husband Thursday. And all of you have a lovely, lovely day. And thanks for well, I'll tell you what, I think I'm having a good feeling.
To me, I think they're very ignorant people. Some of the most ignorant. I think they need to get with the 21st century. I think we're way past prejudice and of all nationalities. And I just think it's ridiculous. I just think they show how stupid they are.
Glad to see them come. Got nothing big major events. It's pretty interesting, basic stuff. Glad it's over with and any problems. I think everything went peaceful. Good rally. It's a good one to have. People's been good. Appreciate
So, obviously it's kind of different, we're not used to, stuff like that going on up north, but, fact is that this is completely legal and allowed. And I guess to start off, I just want to know your thoughts. Should it be legal, should this be allowed, or do you think they're, yep.
I think the founding fathers, when they had freedom of speech and assembly, they looked to protect even those who couldn't be protected at times. I don't think they ever thought it would be stretched so far, but the fact that they still had adversarial people, and some that liked England, some that didn't. So they wanted to embrace everybody. Maybe not as far reaching as that at times, but I think they still were accounting for that.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Well, considering the group, I thought it was very tame, very seemed safe because they had like the separation between them and the place between them. It didn't seem to get like out of control.
Okay. So I think it's safe to say that, as far-fetched as their argument was, what they were doing really wasn't hurting anybody. And I think that's one of the main reasons why assemblies and things of this sort are still protected. So we're going to look over, go through each of these and kind of give some examples, whether historically or in contemporary American society, of where free speech, assembly, religion, and press is practiced. Okay, so we kind of started off with speech with this video, but are there any other examples you guys can come up with where maybe some even extreme speech is protected under the Constitution, whether it's, like I said, historical, contemporary society?
Well, you have like talk radio. You have people that are, they're on because it's the opposite of somebody else. Usually, there's an adversarial role. And that's what sells paper for advertising.
Very good. Any other? I mean, it kind of goes along, I think, with speech and freedom of press are very similar. I think they can kind of be, along with religion, can be grouped into what we call freedom of expression, where we kind of have the freedom to express ourselves in our opinions in pretty much any peaceful way we want. Okay, but there are some clauses where we realize where free speech is not accepted. Anybody here with a clear present danger clause? Never heard of it? Okay. So this is a clause that is directly related to free speech. And I'm going to give you an example rather than just kind of defining it of when speech is not protected by the Constitution because it clearly violates this clause. So let's imagine we're all on a train or a plane, any sort of form of mass public transportation, and somebody, some random person, jumps on board and yells, "There's a bomb." And of course, everyone goes hectic, everyone runs off the plane. Now, that person can be charged in court, even though they can defend themselves trying to say, well, it's free speech, I can say whatever I want. But why would something like that not be protected under the Constitution?
Well, if it was like on like a city bus or something, everyone trying to get out, they get hurt. But it's just floating off instead of probably.
Okay, that's a very good point. I think, what do you find more dangerous? A group of people spreading hate like we saw in the KKK meeting, saying that Mexicans are basically worthless to Americans, or somebody just saying there's a bomb. What do you think spreads more hate? Spreads more, not necessarily more hate, but might cause more problems.
This might not be the answer you're looking for, but I think the KKK rally even though it's by itself, it wasn't violent, it could incite, it could rile people up to the point where they are frenzied enough to commit a violent act. So I don't see a huge difference between shouting fire in the theater and
I think the main point you made there was that with the KKK rally, there was a potential for it. And in this certain circumstance, even the sheriff was saying that it went really smoothly, everything was peaceful. So I think as soon as it starts moving past words and starts getting into violent or threatening statements, I think that's where freedom of speech is there's the drawing line of whether it's protected or not. So now we're going to move on to religion. All right. And this one's a little tricky because I think in America everyone has the freedom to worship whoever they please. I mean, there are some really ridiculous religions out there that we kind of accept and let people choose to partake in that religion. But there are certainly examples where maybe Christians might have more freedom than other religious factions. So let's take a look at JFK. Now you're probably wondering what he has to do with freedom of religion, but there was, he had an attribute as a president that no other president before him had. Yes.
He was Catholic.
He was Catholic, that's right. So, and every other president before him and after him was?
President.
Okay. So you can kind of see how maybe you might be allowed to practice a religion, but you might not be guaranteed the equal chance to success, especially in terms of public sector. Anybody name maybe a Muslim that is currently in national public office? Because I can't. So the freedom, I guess the main point here is religion, to practice it is completely protected under the Constitution, but where the difference lies is you're not necessarily guaranteed equal status. All right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about assembly. All right, and I guess speech and religion are pretty common terms. We kind of understand what those freedoms mean. When we talk about freedom of assembly, what does that entail?
Freedom of protest.
Protest. There's several different levels that deal with assembly, but protest, I would have to say, is the biggest one. And I think for the most part, protesting is completely protected by the Constitution, except especially when it's peaceful. But anybody think of an example in maybe the past couple of years where peaceful protests were not necessarily protected by the Constitution? Maybe some of the protesters were, unrightfully charged or unrightfully pushed from their protesting spots.
Well, I know in the 60s, a lot of the civil rights, a lot of times they would peacefully be going about. I'm not sure if I'm answering.
No, that's actually very good. That's another good example of those. So you can keep going.
So they were just trying to peacefully go about their protest, and then let's say the local authorities told them to move about, and sometimes violently removing them.
No, that's good. So we're going to say some more examples of this is 1960 civil rights. Any other examples, maybe more recently?
Like the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yep. And, I mean, you can explain a little more of that on there.
Well, there was the one, like when Heath Ledger died, they were gonna like pick at his funeral because he was in Brokeback Mountain, which like was a film of a homosexual couple, and then
And, I don't know if you know, but with the Westboro Baptist Church and other, I guess, groups like that, kind of, I know there's other groups that maybe protest soldiers' funerals. They actually aren't allowed to do it at the funeral. For what reason? If they do it in another designated spot, does anybody know? Is a funeral owned by public land? Or is it private land? Privately owned. Okay, so another main reason, or not reason, but one thing you have to think of about freedom of assembly is it's only guaranteed on public land. You can be charged if you're doing it on privately owned land. So I think with the Westboro Baptist Church, it's somewhat different because they weren't actually at the funeral,